And welcome back after the break. I have a pleasure to introduce Edyta Ryszkiewicz-Tum. Edyta will talk about experiment because, hi, I'm Edyta and I like experimenting. This is the way how you introduce yourself. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You shared that you're a Scrum Master at DNA Technology. And is it something specific in the responsibilities for Scrum Master in your company?
Well, I wouldn't call it specific, but I would say that apart from the standard Scrum Master's duties, whatever that means, I would say that I help to grow the organizational culture.
Oh, that's cool. That's wonderful. All right, the title of your talk is Try It Yourself Back to Development. I can wait to hear your story. So the stage is yours, Edyta.
Thank you. Okay, I hope that you can see my screen and my presentation. So let's start. I have to say that I find it interesting that you came here to listen to a rather intimate story about what was happening in my brain during the experiment that I conducted myself. So yeah, basically this talk is about me, but maybe it's true what they say that everything we say is about us. So welcome. My name is Edyta and I like experimenting. I would like to share with you some discoveries about stress, focus. I also have some thoughts about the Scrum Master's role. In general, I like talks that are going straight to the point without making too many introductions, especially about the speaker. But this time I believe that my background is important to understand the boundaries and the context. So a few words about me. Sorry, I don't know. Okay. I used to be a software developer for more than 13 years. My journey with Agile started about 10 years ago when I joined my first Scrum team. Back then it was as a programmer, of course. Thanks to that, I discovered some things about myself, mainly about motivation, courage, etc. And since then, I wanted to become a Scrum Master. And I started working in this role 4 years ago. So as you can see, it took me some time. Currently, I work at DNA Technology, part of DNA Group. As a technological partner, we support our clients in building products, especially software-based. A couple of months ago, I had finished cooperation with one of DNA's clients and had to find a new place for me in the company. I knew that most probably I would have at least a month to focus on internal stuff, not on a cooperation with a specific client. And I asked myself, what about becoming a software developer for some time? True, I used to do that for many years, but in the last few years, I had a break as I was doing the Scrum Master Agile Coach job. So I decided to perform an experiment on myself and become a developer again. What was the result of that experiment? How did I change? What did I learn? It's funny when you think about it, because I used to be a developer. I also know that it's a common path for many software developers to become a Scrum Master. So in my experiment, there should be no surprises because I should have remembered what it was like when I was a programmer, right? Well, not really. But let's go into some details. First, let me introduce some boundaries and initial assumptions. I started with a product that I knew already, and with a client, we had established a strong and healthy relationship. My company, DNA Technology, was also supportive, open for learning and experimentation. As you can imagine, the technology has changed tremendously during these few years, and I had to start maybe not from the beginning, but for sure I had to learn a lot. I asked the team to treat me as a junior, and I wanted to work on stuff that was not very crucial and had no deadline. So generally speaking, I would say that the risk of this development experiment was pretty low. There is also one more important thing I'd like to add to make a picture clearer. There was a Scrum Master in the team I had joined. So it wasn't a situation where I had to play more than one role at the same time in the same team. Although I had some additional duties at DNA, but not connected to any particular team. And you might wonder how others responded to that crazy idea. Well, I have to say that I had very smooth entrance to the team. We just started working on something. But there were, of course, some signs of disbelief. I heard that there were some screenshots made of my GitHub commits as proof as, hey, in this company, even Scrum Master do some coding. It's a little bit funny, but it also made me think why it was so hard to believe. Maybe not everyone in the company I work for knows about my past as a developer, but come on, the whole agile thing started with software, right? So what is this belief about? Does it mean that people assume the Scrum Master is some kind of position and not a role? I'll get back to that. For now, let's check what were my first discoveries during my experiment with development. When I started as a Scrum Master, the one thing that I missed the most was the sense of achievement. You know, when the solution that I created was valued by user, when it was clear that what I've done is useful and visible, I had believed that I had to see the results of my work to be satisfied. Because, you know, when you work as a Scrum Master, it is hard sometimes to notice the change or to embrace that something happened thanks to you. That was the first hypothesis I wanted to verify, if I still miss these clear and visible results. This conviction was refuted. I realized that it doesn't really matter as much anymore. Nothing very revealing here, but definitely I am a different person now than I was a few years ago when I started my agile journey. So my first finding from the experiment was that I do not miss this sense of achievement so much. And it was quite relieving, as in the past I used to question my Scrum Master path very often. This one I discovered pretty early. I regret a little bit not trying this even earlier. It could spare me some drama. But yeah, it was just the beginning. Let's go to other findings. Okay, so how did my daily work look like back then during my experiment? I have noticed that development work needs a different kind of focus. Don't get me wrong, as a Scrum Master, I have to be very focused, paying attention to everyone in the meeting, seeing the first signs of problems, etc. But as a developer, the concentration is different. To get into a flow, I needed a longer time when solving a problem, creating a solution, or debugging an error. So the roles of a development team member and Scrum Master require different kinds of attention. And switching between different kinds of work in this sense is not only about the topic, but also about the focus. And the different kind of focus requires adequate time management. For example, when I had only 20 minutes of free time, there was no point in starting to solve a software problem. On the other hand, in even less than 20 minutes, you can have an efficient and meaningful daily Scrum, or an important and deep discussion about something. When you have more than one role, like me during this experiment, which calendar is more important? Or in other words, how to manage calendars of two different roles that require different cognitive abilities? Or maybe even a simpler or more common problem. When you work as a Scrum Master with a development team, how to make sure that you just don't disturb their work? Okay, let's jump into another finding. The team I joined was the same team I was working with as a Scrum Master a year before. So I already knew the product and some people there. And there was this very creative product guy who always had a bunch of ideas and who was able to create even more of them during discussion. As a Scrum Master, I have tools to deal with these requirement scales, structures, backlog, etc. Completely normal situation. But I feel that this is different when working as a developer, meaning as a person who will be actually doing the work. I felt much more stressed with the amount of work that was there waiting for me. Of course, I knew that there are just some ideas, and at the end, not everything would be implemented, but still. So my core finding here was that the responsibilities of a Scrum Master and development team are slightly different, but the stress level can be also a different cup of tea. And I started to wonder, I know this team, this product, and this creative product guy, and my stress level is higher. Why the hell do I not feel the same responsibility when acting as a Scrum Master? On the other hand, should I really be the only person who worries about the requirements management mentioned before? I discovered that I entrenched myself in my Scrum Master's duties, and I realized that as a result, I created silos inside the team. That for some reason, I assumed that I should be the only person who, for example, runs a retrospective. And I couldn't even remember when was the last time when I checked if the Scrum event would happen without me being there. Do you remember when I started to think why it was so hard to believe that the Scrum Master can perform some development work? Yeah, I think this is another sign of an existing silo. As I mentioned before, there was a Scrum Master in the team I had joined. You may wonder how I perceived his work. I have to admit that, yeah, it was hard sometimes. Why is he doing this? Why is he not doing that? Sometimes I just wanted to have my stuff done, and that's all. When I was in the middle of something, the last thing I wanted to do was to attend some meeting and discuss issues with others. In my mind, I was just somewhere else. And of course, that made me think, as a Scrum Master, am I annoying sometimes? Do I always act in a way that is really helpful for the team? Okay, so the experiment has ended already. This exercise lasted for about a month. And if you're curious, the result is that I still work as a Scrum Master. But thanks to a little bit deeper understanding of the developer's role, I do some things differently now. You may ask, what exactly? Have you ever heard from the team, oh no, another meeting, right? Well, what we do now in the team is to create meeting blocks. We have a rule that every additional meeting should start in the morning, just after the daily, so the rest of the day can be used for work that requires deep focus. So yeah, I try to be more watchful when it comes to other people's calendars. I understand that for some of them, a specific kind of focus is possible only on a particular part of the day. I do not get anxious when they need to spend some time alone. Even for me, it means sometimes that I am apart from the rest of the team. And yeah, it is especially hard these days when working remotely. I perceive my team members' role differently. I feel the need to have dirty hands and take full responsibility for the product creation. I try to be part of the team, not a distant observer. I humbly admit that I might not deliver the same kind of value, but I do my best to be just useful. How? Well, that's the hardest part. As in the team I work with right now, the technology and product are very complex. So no, I do not code anymore. But as the team is working in a regulatory environment, as this is a fintech product, I am, for example, able to help with fulfilling some regulatory requirements. And of course, I asked the team about the value I could deliver. What else? I transfer Scrum Master default responsibilities to other team members even more willingly to get rid of the silo. Yeah, it sounds a little bit scary, as it means that I have to basically challenge my own status quo. But I don't want to be the only person who runs the sprint events or who acts as a human reminder service. What worked for me was just naming it. I have tried to detect every bottleneck in the team, no matter the role, name it, and yeah, in my team, that's often enough. Right now, we are in the state when everyone in the team is paying attention to that. For example, our team is part of a bigger group, and we have some sync meetings between our team and others, and I am the only Scrum Master in that group. Guys from my team sometimes ask me not to share on Slack summaries from these meetings. They prefer to do it themselves. So the rest won't think that this is a Scrum Master's job and that without a Scrum Master, it just won't happen. Or they ask me not to arrange meetings for the same reason. Are you a silo in your team? So yeah, my experiment changed my way of thinking, or at least adjusted it. I believe it's easier for me to understand the other roles when I can feel their pain. So for me, it's about empathy. Because how am I supposed to help the team solve its problems if I don't really get them? I am also discovering some new aspects of mine and other people's work. Every day I'm open to the idea that I may be wrong about something. And well, what can I say? I hope it will stay that way. Does it look familiar, by the way? At the end, any advice? Well, try it yourself with that role another. Design your own experiment. Who knows what we will find? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so great story, an experiment. Unfortunately, we do not have a space for questions right here, right now, but please jump into Edyta channel. I put the link into the Slack channel on the main ping, or you can meet Edyta in Gather because you will be available. Am I right?
I'll be, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. That was a great talk about the VLT experiment. And now I will invite you for the short bio break, technical, and in 1 or 2 minutes, we'll be back with another talk. Thank you.